I never thought a single morning ride on my Harley would spiral into flashing police lights, accusations, humiliation, and, ultimately, one of the most satisfying cases of karma I've ever witnessed. It started on what should have been a perfect day. The sun was barely peeking over the rooftops. The air was cool, and the world was quiet except for the sound of birds and the low rumble I was about to unleash from my pride and joy. My Harley. For years, that bike had been my escape, my therapy, my reminder that even when life felt suffocating, there was always a road out there waiting for me. But that morning, I didn't even get to put my helmet on before chaos erupted. Out of nowhere, the shrill voice of my neighbor, Karen, sliced through the calm like nails on a chalkboard. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" she screamed, storming down her driveway like she was about to perform a citizen's arrest. Now, you've got to picture Karen to understand why this wasn't entirely shocking. She was the queen of the cul-de-sac, self-appointed, of course, loud, judgmental, always with a permanent scowl like the world owed her something. Every neighborhood has one. I'd lived next door to her long enough to know she hated my Harley. She thought it was too loud, dangerous, and a bad influence on the neighborhood kids. But that morning, she took it to a whole new level. She wasn't just complaining. She was pointing at me like I was a criminal. "Officers are going to love this one," she sneered, phone already pressed against her ear. And then the words that made my stomach twist. "Yes, hello? There's a man here trying to steal a motorcycle. Hurry, please. It's happening right now." My jaw dropped. I could actually hear her feeding lies into the phone describing me, her actual neighbor, the owner of the Harley, as some suspicious biker trying to hotwire and steal it. My heart started pounding, not just from anger but from the disbelief that someone could be so shameless. "Karen," I managed finally, trying to keep my voice steady. "What the hell are you talking about? This is my bike. You've seen me ride it 100 times. She smirked, eyes gleaming like she'd finally found her golden ticket. "Oh, sure. That's what they all say. I'm protecting this neighborhood. You don't belong here with that thing. That thing." That's how she referred to the Harley I'd spent years saving for, customizing and taking care of. It wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a part of me. Hearing her dismiss it like junk and then accuse me of stealing it lit a fire in my chest I can't even describe. And then, not 5 minutes later, I heard the distant wail of sirens. My blood ran cold. If you've ever had the cops called on you when you know you've done nothing wrong, you know that sickening cocktail of emotions. Fear, anger, humiliation. What if they don't believe me? What if this turns into something worse? I could already imagine Karen standing proudly on her lawn while officers patted me down like some criminal. 2 squad cars pulled up, lights flashing. Neighbors peeked out from windows and porches. My quiet morning ride had turned into a spectacle. The officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts. One spoke firmly. "Sir, step away from the motorcycle." I raised my hands slightly. "Officers, I can explain. This is my bike. I live right here." I pointed toward my house. "Check the registration, the plates, anything you need." Before I could say more, Karen cut in like she was the star witness. "Don't listen to him. I've lived here for years. I know everyone in this neighborhood, and he doesn't belong. He's been hanging around, revving that monster at all hours, and now he's trying to steal it. I saw him." The officer asked for my ID, registration, proof of insurance. Thankfully, I always kept everything organized. Still, the sting of being treated like a suspect was humiliating. I could feel neighbors' eyes on me, whispers carrying across the street. As the officers ran my info, Karen kept yapping, pacing, and pointing like she'd just cracked some huge case. "You see? He doesn't even look like he belongs on that thing. Probably stolen," she said. My fists clenched, my jaw locked. The only thing that kept me calm was knowing the truth would come out. Then something shifted. One officer XS radio crackled with an update about several reports of stolen bikes and scooters in the area. My ears perked up. The officer glanced at her driveway, then at me, then back at her. "Ma'am," he said, "you said you've lived here for years, right?" She puffed up proudly. "Of course, I know everything that goes on around here." "Interesting," the officer said, "because we've had multiple reports of stolen property traced back to this block." The other officer walked toward Karen's garage. Her door was slightly open. He shined his flashlight inside and motioned for his partner. "Hey, take a look at this." Karen's face drained of color. Stacked in the shadows of her garage were 2 scooters and a dirt bike. Beat up, scratched, but very obviously not hers. The officer turned back to her. "Ma'am, can you explain why there are multiple stolen vehicles in your garage?" Karen stuttered. Well, those aren't mine. My son. He sometimes brings things home. I don't know." Her son. The little brat I'd seen hanging around with other teenagers, always eyeing my Harley. I'd caught him once running his hand along the seat and told him to keep his distance. Now it all made sense. The officers called the kid out. A lanky teenager shuffled into the driveway trying to play it cool. "What's up?" he mumbled, but when they pressed him, he cracked fast. Within minutes, it came spilling out. He and his friends had been stealing bikes from around town, joyriding them, stripping parts, and stashing them in the garage. The look on Karen's face, pure panic. All that smug superiority, gone in an instant. She tried to spin it, saying she had no idea, that she was just trying to protect the neighborhood. But the officers weren't buying it. One of them turned back to me and actually apologized. "Looks like you were telling the truth. Sorry about the mix-up." Inside, I was screaming with satisfaction. Karen, who had just tried to paint me as a criminal, now stood in front of everyone with her son exposed as the real thief. Neighbors whispered louder, some stepping outside fully to watch. Her son was put in the back of the squad car. Karen was practically begging the officers to let him off, saying he was a good kid who made a mistake. But the damage was done. She couldn't shift the blame anymore. And me? I finally got to do what I'd been waiting for all morning. I slid my helmet on, swung my leg over my Harley, and fired it up. The roar of the engine filled the air, drowning out Karen's frantic pleas. I revved it once, not out of necessity, but out of pure poetic justice. That ride? It was the sweetest one of my life. Every mile felt lighter, like the universe had personally stepped in to set things right. The humiliation she tried to dump on me had backfired tenfold, and everyone saw it. People like Karen thrive on control, on pointing fingers, on making others feel small so they can feel big. But sooner or later, that facade cracks. Karma has a way of circling back, and when it does, it's louder than any accusation, stronger than any lie. That morning taught me not to let people like her get in my head, because the truth has a funny way of roaring to life, just like my Harley. So, if you've ever had someone accuse you of something you didn't do, if you've ever felt the sting of being unfairly judged or humiliated, remember this story. Justice might not always be immediate, but when it comes, it's worth the wait. And hey, if this story gave you even a fraction of the satisfaction it gave me, smash that like button, drop a comment with the sweetest case of karma you've ever seen, and don't forget to subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. Because in the end, revenge stories like this remind us all that no matter how loud the Karens of the world scream, the truth always rides louder.